Hey YouTube, here's Heiko. Down in my garage, I just finished, more or less finished, 99% finished a project. I was working on my parts washer, and in this video I will just show you what kind of modifications I made, which will vastly improve the quality of the parts washer or the fluid that it will deliver to wash my parts. So let me turn the camera around and then I will show you what I did. So we're looking at a Harbor Freight $99 parts washer, the 20-gallon variety that, you know, out of the box, you fill it with tons of cleaner, degreaser, whatever floats your boat. I used Purple Power because it was the cheapest. Comes in 2-gallon containers at Walmart, relatively inexpensive. I want to say I filled it, so 20-gallon parts washer doesn't mean you're filling it with 20 gallons of fluid. Roughly about half you need in this thing to work properly. If you look here into my parts washer, you can see the old smear line. That's where the fluid level used to be. And then here on the side is usually a metal box that kind of hangs in the fluid. I chopped up this box. Here's the leftover, and here's the cover that usually goes on there. This part with the holes is usually down in the fluid, hanging here on the side of the parts washer. And this hole is where on the back side of the box, let me show you that as well. On the back side of the box is usually a switch mounted that kind of goes through, and that's where the 110 volt power cord is connected to and then goes to your outlet. I chopped this all up and I will show you why. So the reason why I did all this is that I didn't like that all the fluid stays in here with all the grime and grease and nastiness that you are washing off of the part, and it just collects on the bottom, which in principle is not bad, but then, you know, the dirty stuff constantly stays in this container here, and the pump just circulates it, and the only filter that's in this pump is more or less like a fabric screen, so it's not really filtered at all, and I didn't like that. So I was kind of thinking of ways, without spending a lot of money, how can I improve this parts washer? And this might not be the final version of this, but at the moment I'm pretty happy. So I took the box, cut it all up, cut the section with the pre-drilled holes out that the switch attaches to from the outside, and relocated it to one of the legs. So here's you can see the back part is the piece of sheet metal that I cut out of the box, and this is the switch housing that used to stick out the parts washer on the side. Mounted it here, and then a few 1/4-inch brass fittings later. So this wand here, this flexible nozzle, I want to say it is 1/2-inch straight cut thread sticking out. It's a male thread sticking out of this, and this is a 1/4-inch. Now I'm confusing this. Don't hold me to the size. This is a 1/4-inch brass fitting out of the plumbing section, which has 1/4-inch NPT and 1/4-inch NPT. And this thing, even though this is NPT and this is straight threading, fits right in here. Then I put a little nipple in here, and then I put another 1/4-inch NPT, 1/4-inch NPT. Both sides are female. Same here. Female, 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 and female. Put that in here. Down here is a 1/4-inch male to hose bar fitting in here that accepts 1/2-inch ID hose that I bought at the hardware store. And so that's how I now deliver the fluid into the basin here, into the sink. I might close up this hole, just cut a piece of sheet metal, cover it up, glue it on or whatever, probably after I'm done testing. So this line is the supply line, and since I didn't want to spend much money, I decided I'm going to use the same submersible pump that it came with. Here, let me turn on some light for you. There's some light. Focus. There. So you saw that I cut up this box completely. The pump is mounted on some sort of rail system inside that metal box, and I figure why not use the same rails to hold it on the side of a bucket. Here, let me see if I can even pull this out, because the hose is pretty stiff. So you see the blue piece of sheet metal? That's the side of the box with the little, you can't see the rails, but it's sitting on rails on the little sheet metal profile that it just slides onto. So that's why I took the side of the box off, extended a little bit, added the strapping that just goes over the bucket on the side. The wiring, it's all epoxy sealed. The pump is completely submersible, so as long as you don't have the ends of the wiring touching fluid, you're perfectly fine. From the back side, through a rubber grommet, it goes back into my switch box here through one of the legs. So in the middle is a big hole where the wire comes through and the grommet is in, and then the power wire coming from the outlet and this wire are both grounded against the leg here. So I just did the wiring exactly how it was, just relocated, not on the side over there, but down here. And now the wire is just long enough to hang about halfway down the bucket. Right around here is where it sucks the fluid in. Then I wanted as much fluid available as possible, so I put two buckets next to each other. I could probably done a 5-gallon bucket. These are 3.5. I had them sitting around. They are from my last home improvement project. I just used those. They came with a lid, so I didn't have to buy the buckets either. And the bottom drain here, that is factory installed, usually has this little plug in it, which is a straight threaded, can't speak today, straight threaded plug. It's M14 by 1.5, and you can buy on eBay, I found on eBay a M14 by 1.5 threaded fitting that has a hose barb at the bottom end that would fit in there. But I found that from the hardware store, a 1/4-inch NPT male thread also fits right in there. So I just put a little bit of Teflon tape. On top of the Teflon tape, I put some, what is it, True Blue pipe thread sealant. Put that on there, put it in. There's no pressure on it, it's just a drain line, right? And again, my 1/2-inch hose. So you can see that the drain goes into this bucket. And then I have two hoses connecting those two buckets. The hose needs to be filled with fluid. You can suck on one side, or I used a little hand pump and sucked the fluid through. And once you have it filled with fluid, the differential in the fluid level in those buckets will always level them out. It's like if you have a couple of barrels sitting outside catching rainwater, if you connect them with each other with a fluid-filled hose, it's pretty much the siphoning effect. As soon as the fluid level in this gets higher, it siphons it over to this one. So these two buckets will always level off. So now I have the suction from the pump in this and the return line in this connected by, I put two lines in between just so that the capacity of the siphoning effect is fast enough to fill this bucket up. If I have a too powerful pump in here and it sucks more fluid out than those two deliver over into this one, I would eventually overfill this, make a mess, and run out of fluid in this one. So I did some testing. I can now turn this on full power and keep it running, and I will not drain down any of those buckets. You can barely see that it's going down. It goes down like a 1/4 inch. That is just enough differential for the siphoning effect to keep delivering. And the two hoses go down also about halfway. So the whole point of this 2 bucket setup instead of 1 big bucket is all the dirty fluid goes in here, and then the heavier particles have a chance to settle down. Everything that floats on top, it doesn't get transferred by those hoses, so all the grimy, dirty stuff will, certain percentage of it will stay in here. So the dirty, heavy stuff settles at the bottom, the slimy stuff stays on top, and only the clean fluid in the middle gets transferred over to this one. And I will see how well that works. If it doesn't work all that well, if I still get a lot of gunk in both buckets, I might even put some sort of filtration in the pressure line here. So I could easily reroute this and buy myself like a, there's some sort of pre-filter, like a strainer filter for water lines. This is a water-based solvent or a water-based cleaner. So you don't want to use oil filters or fuel filters that you can buy at AutoZone or Napa, because they are made of a paper filter material that would probably deteriorate if you use it for water. But you can buy particle strainers that can be installed into water line, into high pressure water line, to just filter out particles. That would probably be good enough. And then you kind of have an idea how much gunk you get. That would be an idea. But for now, dirty fluid in here, more or less clean fluid from the middle of the bucket over there. And then let me turn it on now. So you can see the level. It might move a little bit. There you go. That's as far as it will go down. And then up here, I have this to this thing. I will connect this here in a little bit. And yeah, it hasn't really slowed down in amount. You know, now there's a little bit more hose connected to that pump. It's not the most powerful hose, but it's inexpensive. So if your pump fails after a few years, they are like $15–20 replacement, made in China. My little basin here has a drain right there. It would be better if the drain would be right in the middle, but you know, it's not perfect. There's always going to be a little bit of a puddle sitting here in the middle, but for the most part, I can easily get all the fluid out of here, and it's going to be down in those 2 buckets, and they are perfectly leveling off. So I had it run for like 30 minutes, and we're not running out of fluid in this one, and we're not overfilling this one. I guess if you use a lot of fluid and you have parts dripping sitting up here, overall some of the fluid is going to stay up here until you have all the parts drip off the fluid and it goes back down into the sink here. But overall, I have 7 gallons of fluid available. Yeah, the level is about the same. I might fill it up a little more. I have a little bit more. Yeah, so this is my version of separating the dirty from the clean. This reminds me of a septic system. Modern septic systems, they're usually multi-tank systems. So the first tank is where the whole mixture of nastiness goes in. You know, number 1 and number 2 go into the first tank, and then all the heavy stuff will settle in the first tank, and only the fluid will transfer over to the second tank. And then in the second tank, it again can settle a little more, and then only the top layer of the fluid leaves the tank and goes into the leach field. And this is pretty much how this is also set up. So I'm pretty happy so far. Not run into any problems. Nice thing is I can just lay those lids on there and the fluid will not evaporate that fast. I had to cut the little slots here on the side so I can take the lid off and refill if I have to. But yeah, so far so good. And the transferring, the siphoning seems to be working really well. I think this is as far down as it will go. And then as soon as I stop it, turn it off, you see how it will fill up. Oh, we have lots of, I guess the opening here in the drain is not the largest, so it's actually draining slower down than the pump brings it up here, which was to be expected. I usually don't stand here at the parts washer for like 2 hours straight. So if I can clean something for 5-10 minutes and not run out of fluid, it's going to be fine. And as I said, the pump is halfway down. All those hoses are about halfway down. And the return line is also not quite to the bottom, but almost to the bottom. You can see the zip ties there. I just put zip ties on those lines so I don't accidentally pull it too far out of one bucket and put it into the other. So once you get air introduced into those siphon lines, the siphoning effect doesn't work anymore. So yeah, it's still going down. The opening could be a little bigger here for sure. It's pretty tiny, but it drains really well. Only the middle part has a little dip in it, where always a little bit of stuff will stay. And I can also just put a couple shims under the legs and tip it over. Oh yeah, this is about where the shelf used to be. I just took it off, put it on the ground. I might drill there and put a couple screws through it so the legs are more secure and not as wobbly. Yeah, you can see it needs to lean a little bit more. But yeah, this is my version. I hope you guys like it. If you have any questions, post it down below in the comments. If you have any good ideas, please share. And you guys take care. Bye.